Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Touring with Travis. Chris and I are fighting the bugs right now. The bugs have come out on Bald Head Island, so bear with us. My name is Travis Gilbert. I'm the educator and collections coordinator here for the Old Baldy Foundation. And behind the camera here, we have Chris Webb, our executive director. We survived our historic happy hour last evening. Many of you have joined us last evening for that happy hour. We had a great time, so thank you for a fun and informative evening. But we survived to have another afternoon out here on the field with Touring with Travis, and we thought that we would bring you to another Generator Society home. And one of my favorite pieces of cultural remains that are left behind by the Generator Society. It's this old generator house. So we are at the home of Dr. Thad and Lee Wester. And the Westers built what we call Raccoon Hilton. That was their name. Everybody named their homes in the Generator Society era. 17 of these homes, all named. And the Westers chose for their home Raccoon Hilton. It's kind of funny. I think it's one of the more colorful names. And the Westers built in 1972. And there's a little bit still of a discrepancy. I won't call it an argument, but it is just this idea that who came first in the 70s? Who were the first to build out here on Bald Head Island? Who were the first Generator Society members? And there is a discrepancy between whether it was Dr. Wester here or if it was Bill Byrne, whose home is not too far away from here. We'll bring that home to you in a future episode. So we're not quite sure even to this day who was first. We don't choose sides in this discrepancy at the Old Baldy Foundation, so we'll leave it up to you and what your thoughts are about who came first. And of course, each of these Generator Society homes had a structure just like this. It is a generator house. The generators are noisy, can't have them close to the house, so they would build these little structures. There must have been 17 of them around the Bald Head Island in the 1970s. And inside this structure were the gas-powered generators that was supplying electricity to the homes. And Dr. Wester here had a little bit of humor with his Generator Society, or generator house. You can see he wrote manager, 1973 to 1981 for Wester Electric Company Incorporated. Western with the N struck out. So I'll post in the comments. We have some really cool pictures, black and white photographs of Dr. Wester and the kids working on the generator inside this house. You can read in the oral histories and the transcripts. The generators were always a work in progress. They never worked when they were supposed to work, and they needed 24/7 kind of maintenance. It never seemed to end for these poor souls. And in fact, one of my favorite stories with Dr. Wester is he and Bill Byrne would have to come over here in the winters and check on the generators every so often. The Westers were from Lumberton, so not too far away from this area, just a little west of us. Well, he and Bill Byrne, before they created an airstrip along South Beach at what we call Phase 2 construction, before they could come and go using the airstrip via plane, they would in the winter have to go in and out of the Cape Fear River aboard their personal boats. No ferry service yet. Well, Bill Byrne and Dr. Wester, they got stuck on a sandbar out there in the mouth of the river. Just like our pirate friend Stede Bonnet, and they had to wade the shore. Wade to shore, I think it was January, Dr. Wester said. They said that there was ice on the buoys, and of course, when they got here, there's not a nice, warm, heated home waiting for them. No, I mean, they had to get the generators started to heat up the house. So I'll take our ferries any day of the week as opposed to waiting in the middle of January at the mouth of Cape Fear. So I'm going to follow along here on Facebook. If you're out there listening, let us know that you're out there. Give us a shout out in the comments. We love to hear from you. Let us know where you're listening from. Let us know if your family is healthy and that all is well in your homes. And let us know what your connection to Bald Head Island is. We'd love to hear from our audience out there and learn a little bit about you. Kara, Jace wants to know if some of the houses still have generators in the generator houses to use when a hurricane causes power outage. Jace, I don't know. I know that there are homes out here with generators in them. It's locked, unfortunately. The Westers have locked this up. I have a hunch, Jace, that this is empty. It's here kind of for sentimental purposes, for history lessons like this. I'm thinking that it's still empty. I don't see any cords working their way around it. Great question, Jace. Thank you for listening in, Jace and Kara out there. So what is peculiar about the Westers is they had a lot of kids. They had probably the largest family in the Generator Society era. The Cosgroves had plenty of kids. We'll talk about them one day. But when they started building out here in 72, 73, they had Ellen, who was 19, Brian, who was 17, Ginny, which was 14, and Amanda, who was 12. So a whole bunch of a whole bunch of teenagers out here with the Westers that are living out here. You think it's come on by.
I just want to hear what you talk about Dr. Wester.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, do you want to be on TV? Oh, Facebook Live.
No, when I just being curious, I heard teenagers, and I thought nobody better be bothering Dr. Thad's Wester Electric. I love it.
No, yeah, no, we're teaching about it.
That's correct. Y'all take care.
Yeah, we never harm this. It's one of my favorite things on the island. Just kind of a reminder of how it was before all our modern amenities today. So, yeah, imagine all these teenagers out here on Bald Head Island spending their summers. What a place to be for the family. So, the Westers, they had some of the best generators out here during this time period. They had 2 generators, and they could run the lights, the water pump, the kitchen appliances, and the heating and cooling system, but not all at once, Dr. Wester says in this history that he wrote. So there was a unique combination to the household. You could run the microwave, but you couldn't run the air conditioning at the same time, or the TV could be on, but you'd have to turn, the water pump off. There was a unique combination. There was an art or a science to running the generators at their house behind us that we're going to show you in a minute. And another favorite story of mine, if Dr. Wester gives us or left behind for us, is about the ice. So ice in this era were known as bald head diamonds. It was sinful to leave the mainland and come on over here without bringing some bald head diamonds along. Ice was valuable. Ice was a precious commodity, and you can see that in that name, the diamonds, how much they valued keeping their cocktails a little cool. Well, eventually they had enough. So Dr. Wester and several other folks organized to purchase a ice maker for the community. It's a communal ice maker, and that shows you kind of how this, community, how close they were to one another. Dr. Wester just didn't go out and buy an ice maker and put it in his house and just use it for himself. No, everything was shared out here. Whether that it's a pot of jambalaya on the beach for a howl at the moon, or whether it's an ice maker to produce all those diamonds. Everything was communal. That's how close the Generator Society families were to one another. They relied on one another, not only for fellowship, but when things were right and when things went terribly wrong, like when the Harper's garage caught on fire. Well, there eventually was a coup, because he says here, and it's got to read it in his own words, ice is of course the most valuable commodity, and few had extra generator-powered facilities to keep ice trays full. Finally, after my leadership, several families pooled resources and bought a community ice maker. finally, one of these families got an uncontrollable urge to make peach ice cream one hot afternoon and cleared out all the ice. It says near revolution followed. Not only was the ice cream not shared, but the rest of us were without ice for days. All ended quietly, however, Dr. Wester assures us, and after some well-chosen words with the ice cream makers, the event was never repeated. So I'm sure even if they did choose to make ice cream again, sharing it would have quelled the revolution out here on Bald Head. So we got quite a few listeners out there. Let us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what your connection to Bald Head Island is. If you have any questions or would like us to elaborate on something, give us a shout out in those comments. Even if you're listening into the future, we'll go back and read through those comments. So we'd love to hear from you folks. Everybody, so let's talk about, I'm going to read a little bit more from Dr. Wester's memories. She said, their most pleasant memories relate to the closeness of families developed in those early years, and the pioneer spirit that meant everyone was always ready to help out when needed. The help was also there because when it was a party, and also when there was not a problem. The Westers particularly think of the cookouts at the point. Everyone would participate by bringing food and drinks and equipment. The young people would be responsible for gathering the driftwood and manning the fire. Pat Thomas would bring his guitar, and we would sit around for hours singing, telling jokes, and sharing stories. Often on their way home, the Westers would spot a loggerhead turtle nesting. Even though we'll always remember the hardships, we remember most great times and the times of simple pleasure. Where else could you cast your nets and catch about 50 speckled trout, dress them on the spot, fillet and cook them in less than an hour from beginning to end? We did that just about every evening. So really, some cool memories of Dr. Wester there. He wrote a very touching letter to his grandchildren that is in our archives. And the letter really shows us an idea of why they created the Generator Society and what the purpose of creating an almost semi-official status or club for these folks. And Dr. Wester says in answering that it's a fair question. The idea of Generator Society actually had less to do about generators than it did with the people who chose to pioneer on those early days at Bald Head. It was estimated that under-river cable and the distribution of underground power would be in place by the end of the year 1981. I believe that there should be some recognition of this group of pioneers and staunch supporters of responsible development of the island, and believe that Generator Society would be a good and proper title. A good time to recognize the group that would be at Smith Island Social, as it would come to a surprise to everyone, especially the inductees. So nobody knew that they were going to infer this honorary title of Generator Society member onto the group at that first Smith Island Social, which is still a tradition here on Bald Head Island today. Happened just a few weeks ago.
January,
yep. So, since I was president of the Property Owners Association at the time, it would be easy for me to make presentations and keep it a secret. I did, however, discuss the idea with Bill Byrne, which was characteristic of both of us, and we both agreed in idea that this was a good one. I then sketched a logo and the wordings of the declaration and took it to my secretary's daughter, who is an artist or a high school art teacher, and she did the artwork. We'll post that logo on the comments to show you. The handsome declaration and the identification of those who were members of the Generator Society migrated around the island for several years, and it wound up back home and resides now in our living room. Each family was given a photographic copy of the declaration during the presentation on May 18th, 1980. And of course, Dr. Wester is right. It's in the next year, 1981, that a 9.5-mile underwater cable is laid from Oak Island to Bald Head Island, and that inaugurates the deliverance of electricity to this island, not powered by generators. So of course, the families of the 19 families who built 17 homes on this island prior to the deliverance of electricity will forever be known as the Generator Society. So, curious enough, fun character. I like to read from his own words some of his comments. It's kind of nice. These primary sources, again, a source that is first person. Dr. Wester was here. He did this. He endured the hardships. He waded through the Cape Fear River with Bill Byrne. He helped organize the society. So it's in his words. It's a first person account. Me telling you now is a second person account. So very, very wonderful primary resources. And you can find these resources via our website, oldbaldy.org. It's a brand new, beautiful website. You go there and go to our archival section. You can find these writings and many, many other writings from the Generator Society era. So let's get down the road here and take a look at Raccoon Hilton, which is still in the family, by the way. I think that's really awesome. I'm not sure there's any other Generator Society homes that are still necessarily in the family, but the family still owns it here. Now, Dr. Wester did pass away, but his wife, Lee, is still with us, and the family, again, still owns this house. It is starting to become caterpillar season on Bald Head Island. You can see that.
And black biting flies.
Yeah. We have been fighting off the bugs right now. We're dense in the maritime forest right now in the middle of the island. But there is Raccoon Hilton.
The Westers were quite the gardeners. They loved their gardens. I believe, Travis, that this is a rental home now.
Oh, okay.
It's a vacation rental, and I believe Ellen is taking care of it with her mom, Lee, and the other kids. The third generation has been here on the island working and participating in various ways.
So, to conclude this afternoon, I thought maybe you might ask, well, what happened to the Wester's generators after power was delivered in 1981? Well, again, it kind of shows you the type of man that Dr. Wester was. He says, when we received commercial power, I donated my 2 working generators to nonprofit organizations. Very, very like this man, everything I've read about him. The larger one I gave to the Duke Marine Lab in Beaufort, North Carolina for use in their research labs.
He was a Dookie, by the way.
This was the perfect gift as they did not have backup for those labs, and with power failures, the pump and the heaters that operated their research activities failed and the experiments had to be restarted. I've seen it a couple times since gifting it, and is beautifully maintained and much appreciated. And the other, the diesel-powered generator, was given to a marine research project in the Caribbean. I had it appraised for gift purposes, and the appraiser said that he had never seen a generator so well maintained and gave it a very high appraisal. So all that hard work and waiting that Dr. Wester achieved went to a good cause. The appraisal simply reflected how important power was to those of us in those early years on Bald Head. I think that's a great way to end our time. So we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for another Quarantine Collections. We're going to be bringing out Jack Murphy's boots, his riding boots. We're talking about World War II and Coast Guardsmen. We're out here riding on our beaches, protecting our shores against German U-boats. And then tomorrow afternoon, we'll talk some Revolutionary War in Fort George. We'll take you back to 1776 on Bald Head Island. All right. So thanks for joining us, folks. We're hoping that you're healthy and that you're safe out there. Thank you to all our essential employees, our doctors and nurses, and grocery store workers, our truck drivers. It is amazing. You all are heroes. We thank you very much, especially those essential employees here on Bald Head Island that are restocking our grocery store and keeping us safe and supplied here as we ride out this pandemic on Bald Head Island. We'll hope that this will all be over and you all can come join us for a tour in person very, very soon.
Sorry.
Thanks, everybody.